can't shit my pants.
In 1968, a television broadcast featured a host named Murray and two scientists discussing deadly disease outbreaks sweeping the globe. They spoke optimistically. Medical science had advanced, cures had been found, and many illnesses no longer posed a threat. But then, the tone shifted. An epidemiologist named Newman delivered a chilling warning. The real danger wasn't a virus, it was fungi.
Not bacteria, not viruses, so
fungus.
Newman explained that certain fungi could infect insects, like ants, infiltrating their brains and seizing control. These parasites didn't kill the host right away. Instead, they consumed the body from within while keeping it alive, a walking corpse under fungal command. A fellow scientist, Schoenheis, dismissed the claim. Fungi can't survive high temperatures, and the human body is too warm, 34 degrees Celsius or more, for them to pose any risk. But Newman pushed back. If global warming raised temperatures high enough, fungi could adapt. And if they did, there would be no stopping the spread, no treatment, no cure.
And there are no treatments for this, no preventatives, no cures. They don't exist. It's not even possible to make them.
So if that happens,
we lose.
The story then jumps ahead 35 years to 2003. A teenage girl named Sarah wakes up late. It's her father's birthday and she hurries to the kitchen hoping to make him pancakes. But with no flour, she settles for scrambled eggs. Since her mother's death, Sarah has taken on many household duties, doing her best to support her father, Joel. As they eat, Joel's brother Tommy walks in, hungry and jobless, still struggling to get back on his feet after leaving the military. The quiet morning is broken by a radio news alert. Chaos is unfolding in Jakarta. U.S. citizens are told to stay inside. Joel, confused, assumes Jakarta is somewhere in the Middle East. Sarah corrects him. It's the capital of Indonesia.
Jakarta. Where is that, Middle East?
It's the capital of Indonesia.
Shit. Hope for us yet.
Later, while packing for school, Sarah slips into Joel's room to retrieve his broken watch. It had been a birthday gift from her late mother, and she plans to fix it in secret. Bored at school, her mind drifts to her plan. On her way home, she makes a stop at a watch repair shop, determined to restore the gift and surprise her father. At the watch shop, the atmosphere turned tense. The owner was finishing Joel's watch when his wife rushed in, warning him to shut the shop immediately. Fortunately, the owner managed to complete the repair just in time. His wife handed the watch to Sarah and told her to go home without delay. Stepping outside, Sarah sensed something was wrong. The once crowded streets had fallen silent. Curious but unaware of the danger, she stopped by her neighbor Mrs. Adler's house to help with baking cookies as promised. While the dough baked, Sarah flipped through a DVD collection. Behind her, out of sight, Mrs. Adler's elderly mother suddenly seized, then froze in place, unblinking and unmoving. Soon Sarah said goodbye and borrowed a movie, but noticed something off. The family dog was staring at Granny, rigid with tension. That night, Joel finally came home at 10 p.m., apologizing for forgetting the birthday cake. Sarah, always thoughtful, gave him the repaired watch. It meant a lot to him. She had also chosen an action movie he'd wanted to watch, trying to give him a break from the burdens he carried every day. Later, Sarah fell asleep. Joel stayed up watching the movie until he got a call. Tommy had been arrested after fighting a man who suddenly went berserk and attacked a waitress. Tommy had stepped in, but the police arrested him. In the end, Joel tucked Sarah into bed and rushed to the station to help. Around 2 a.m., Sarah woke to the sound of helicopters. The house was empty. On the TV, every channel showed the same emergency broadcast: stay indoors. Confused and alone, Sarah heard frantic barking. It was Mercy, the Adler's dog, scratching at the door, wild with fear. Sarah tried to return the dog, but Mercy bolted, terrified. Sarah, driven by concern, entered the Adler's house. Inside, she found chaos. Mr. Adler bleeding, begging for help, and worse, Granny had turned into a monster. She was attacking Mrs. Adler with savage force. Horrified, Sarah fled, but Granny had seen her. Just as Granny lunged, Joel and Tommy arrived and stopped her. Joel struck her down with a wrench. Sarah, shaken, looked at her father in disbelief, but he made it clear. If he hadn't acted, they would all be dead. With no time to lose, Tommy shouted at them to get in the car. The world outside had changed, and they had to run. Inside the car, panic builds. Sarah demands answers. Tommy explains quickly. The old woman and others in town are infected by a virus or parasite. It's spreading fast and tearing the city apart. Joel's plan is simple: get his daughter and brother out before it's too late. But the highways are jammed. Cars stretch for miles. Everyone is trying to escape. Joel orders Tommy to veer off and find another way, but even the border is locked down. Military units have sealed every exit. Their usual route is blocked by armed soldiers. Desperate, Joel instructs Tommy to take the northern path, even though it cuts through tightly packed neighborhoods. Tommy hesitates. It's dangerous, but they have no choice. As they push through the narrow streets, disaster strikes. A plane crashes nearby and explodes.
Tommy, you can't stop here.
Tommy, go faster! We gotta go! Shit!
The blast flips their car. Smoke and fire fill the sky. Joel crawls out and pulls Sarah from the wreck. Before they can regroup, a police vehicle slams into the car, igniting another fireball. The chaos separates them from Tommy. At that moment, Joel tells Tommy to head to the river. He'll find another way with Sarah. She's injured, can't walk. Joel lifts her and runs, but the streets are no longer safe. Infected swarm the area. One rushes at them. Joel braces for the worst, then a soldier guns the attacker down. Relief is brief. When Joel asks for help, the soldier raises his weapon. He thinks Joel and Sarah are infected. Joel pleads. They're not. But the soldier radios his command and prepares to shoot. Instead of offering help, he opens fire. Joel shields Sarah and runs. Just as the soldier takes aim to finish them, Tommy reappears and takes him out. But the damage is done. A bullet has hit Sarah. She's bleeding heavily. Joel holds her close, powerless. In his arms, his daughter dies. The escape plan has failed, and now, nothing will ever be the same. And from that moment, the world began to die. Cities crumbled, borders vanished, hope turned to ash. This is the story of what came after. This is The Last of Us. In 2023, the world is no longer recognizable. A young boy limps through the ruins of Boston, a silent, shattered city. The sight confirms the worst. The infection has gone global. Civilization has collapsed. Suddenly, the boy falls to the ground. Two Fedra soldiers find him and bring him to the Boston quarantine zone, one of the few strongholds left after the fall of governments and militaries worldwide. In the chaos that followed the outbreak, survivors built guarded zones to contain what remained of humanity. Inside, the boy stares blankly at a poster listing the stages of cordyceps infection. Each phase brings a person closer to losing their mind and body, until they become something else entirely, something violent and uncontrollable. A Fedra officer approaches and questions him, but he doesn't speak. He's in shock. Another soldier scans him. He's infected. The officer, calm but firm, tries to comfort him. She promises food, clean clothes, and toys if he cooperates and accepts the injection. The boy lowers his guard, unaware of what's coming. The scene cuts to a grim reality. Workers toss infected bodies onto burning piles. One woman stands frozen, exhausted and overwhelmed, as a truck unloads more corpses. She doesn't want to continue, but she has no choice. This is what survival looks like now. Unfortunately, the woman couldn't bring herself to burn the body. Instead, she turned to Joel for help. When he stepped forward, he saw the face of the boy rescued days earlier by Fedra. He had been infected. Now, he was just another body to be destroyed. 2 decades after the outbreak, there's still no cure, no vaccine. The only way to contain the infection is by burning the dead. It's harsh, but it's all they have. Inside the Boston quarantine zone, survivors like Joel do whatever it takes to stay alive. Jobs are paid in ration coupons, used for food, medicine, and supplies. Joel takes as many jobs as possible, doing hard labor just to survive. But that's not enough. To get ahead, Joel also works as a smuggler, moving goods in and out of the quarantine zone. Even Fedra soldiers are among his buyers. One of them, Lee, regularly trades with Joel for drugs. Elsewhere, a woman named Tess is in trouble. She's been captured by a man named Robert and his crew. Tess had paid Robert for a truck battery, but he sold it to someone else. When she demands what's hers, his men beat her. Bruised and bloodied, Tess keeps her focus. She warns Robert not to let her partner find out what happened. He knows the threat is real. Before he can respond, an explosion rocks the area. In the chaos, Tess escapes, but only to stumble into another crisis. She finds herself in the middle of a firefight between Fedra forces and the Fireflies, a rebel group fighting against the quarantine zone's rule. Soldiers quickly capture Tess, mistaking her for a Firefly.
They're shooting! They're shooting at us! I'm not a firefly!
Meanwhile, a girl named Ellie is being held at a Firefly base. She's angry, tired of the same questions day after day. She warns her captors that she'll expose them to Fedra.
Fuck you.
Let me out or you're gonna pay, motherfuckers!
Back in the quarantine zone, Joel visits a radio operator. He's searching for any word from Tommy, his brother, who hasn't made contact in weeks. Tommy usually sends a message daily. Now, there's only silence, and Joel is starting to fear the worst. Joel demanded the exact location of the radio tower where Tommy had last sent a signal. He was done waiting. Back at home, anger and worry pushed him to act. He began gathering supplies, determined to find the only family he had left. 20 years had passed since he lost Sarah. Now, he refused to lose Tommy, too. The next morning, Joel was shocked to find Tess at his door, her face swollen and bruised. She explained that Robert had double-crossed her. He sold the truck battery they needed. That battery was key to reaching Tommy. Without wasting time, Joel and Tess set off to get it back. Meanwhile, inside the Firefly's headquarters, tension was building. Marlene, the group's leader, warned her team. A Fedra attack was imminent. One of her officers, Kim, questioned Marlene's secrecy surrounding Ellie, who was locked in a guarded room. Marlene gave no clear answers, only orders to prepare for battle. As the others left, she handed Kim a note. Reading the message, Kim's expression shifted. The truth about Ellie hit hard. Whatever was written, it explained everything. Kim understood now why Marlene was willing to risk everything to protect the girl. With the plan in motion, Marlene met with Ellie. She reminded Ellie that she had spared her life. Her soldiers had orders not to kill her. Ellie, still confused but cautious, responded with forced respect. But her guard slipped when Marlene called her by her real name, revealing she knew Ellie's past, an orphan raised by Phaedra.
You think I chose that place?
I did. Ellie.
Ellie wanted to know why she was being held and why everything was kept secret. She asked to be let go and promised not to report anything if they released her. But Marlene had her own reasons and refused to let Ellie leave, for now. Marlene refused to let Ellie go because Ellie wasn't just another survivor. She carried something inside her that could change everything. Marlene made it clear. Ellie would be moved to another location, and she needed to be ready. At the same time, Joel and Tess discovered that Robert had sold the truck battery to the Fireflies. Desperate to get it back, they entered an old underground railway tunnel. Inside, they found the body of an infected fused to the wall, covered in years of fungal growth. Tess believed the man had been infected before entering. Joel thought the infection happened down there and warned her to move fast. Eventually, they found a hidden door leading to the Fireflies' base. But instead of supplies, they walked into a crime scene. Robert and his men were dead, gunned down in a failed deal. The truck battery lay nearby, broken. Robert had tried to scam the Fireflies, and it cost him his life. Then, chaos erupted. Ellie lunged at Joel with a knife. He dodged the attack, shocked to find a child among the rebels. Moments later, a wounded Marlene stepped in. She knew Joel, they had a history. Joel had worked with the Fireflies before, and she trusted his skills. Marlene, bleeding but focused, made an offer. Get Ellie to the Fireflies base in Massachusetts, and Joel would receive a working truck in return. After a tense exchange, Joel and Tess agreed. It was risky, but Joel needed the truck to keep searching for Tommy. Later, Joel brought Ellie to his apartment and told her to rest. They would leave after dark. Tess went ahead to scout a safe escape route from the quarantine zone. That night, she returned with a plan. It was time to move. The three slipped into the underground passage, hoping to avoid patrols. But luck ran out. They crossed paths with Lee, a Fedra soldier Joel had dealt with before. Even though Joel and Lee had a history, Lee being one of Joel's regular buyers, none of that mattered now. On duty, Lee stayed strict. He warned Joel, Tess, and Ellie that sneaking out of the quarantine zone carried serious consequences. Joel tried to bribe him with free drugs, but Lee refused. He followed protocol and started scanning them. The moment Lee scanned Ellie, she reacted. Nervous and tense, she suddenly lashed out. Lee responded fast, drawing his weapon and aiming it at her. Joel stepped between them, trying to calm the situation, but Lee held his ground. The sight of a gun pointed at a child triggered Joel's memory. 20 years earlier, another soldier aimed a rifle at him and his daughter, Sarah. That moment ended in tragedy. Rage took over. Joel attacked Lee, beating him until he lost control. Tess stepped in, yelling for Joel to stop, and then showed him something that changed everything. Ellie had tested positive for infection. Both Joel and Tess were stunned. They felt betrayed, believing Marlene had lied to them. But Ellie quickly explained. She had been bitten 3 weeks ago, and she still hadn't turned. She claimed she was immune. Despite their shock and disbelief, Joel and Tess made a decision. Fedra would soon be on their trail. There was no time left. They had to move, and they had to see if Ellie was telling the truth. The mission continued. The story then shifts, back to where it all began. In Jakarta, before the world fell apart, 2 soldiers escorted a woman named Ratna from a restaurant. Inside the car, she confirmed her identity. The man beside her, General Hidayat, revealed why she was needed. Ratna was a mycology professor at the University of Indonesia. They took her to a high-security lab. Inside, she was asked to examine a biological sample. One look under the microscope was enough. The diagnosis was immediate. The sample was Ophiocordyceps. The threat was real, and it had already begun. At one moment, Ratna immediately questioned why chlorazol was used on the slide. General Hidayat explained it was standard for preparing human tissue samples. Ratna reminded him that cordyceps couldn't survive in human bodies, until now. Moments later, they suited her in full protective gear and led her into a sealed quarantine room to examine the corpse of a woman who had been shot. Guided by Hidayat, Ratna inspected the body. The bite marks were abnormal, twisted, mutated. She asked if they were caused by a human. Hidayat confirmed they were. Then she opened the mouth. What she found stunned her. Living cordyceps fungus inside the throat, growing and spreading. It was adapting. After the exam, Hidayat gave her more details. 30 hours earlier, at a flour and grain factory in West Jakarta, a female worker became violent and bit several co-workers. The others locked her in a bathroom and called the police. But the situation escalated. She became uncontrollable. Officers had no choice but to shoot her. It didn't end there. The bitten workers turned aggressive. Police were again forced to shoot. Now 14 workers from the site had vanished. Authorities were still searching. Ratna listened in horror, her hands shaking. This wasn't a local incident. It was the start of something uncontrollable. Moments later, Hidayat revealed why she was brought in. He needed her to find a cure or develop a vaccine. But Ratna gave him the truth. In all her years as a mycology expert, no cure for cordyceps had ever been found. A vaccine was impossible. Stunned, Hidayat asked what could be done. Ratna gave her answer, direct and devastating. The only way to slow the spread was to bomb Jakarta. The city had to be wiped out along with everyone in it.
Tidak ada obat dan tidak ada vaksin.
Jadi apa yang harus kami lakukan?
Bom seluruh kota.
Holding back tears, she asked to go home. She wanted to spend her last moments with her family before the world fell apart. In the present, Ellie awoke to find Joel pointing a gun at her. He saw the infection and didn't take chances, but Ellie stayed calm. This wasn't the first time someone had wanted to kill her. She explained her wound. The bite had been there for weeks. No symptoms, no fever. She hadn't turned. Marlene had found her like that, infected but stable. Instead of killing her, Marlene chose to study her, locking her up and running tests. Ellie hadn't changed, and that made her different. It made her valuable. As time passed, Ellie showed no signs of infection, no fever, no twitching, no symptoms. Marlene came to a shocking conclusion. Ellie was immune. Somehow her body resisted the cordyceps fungus. After telling Joel and Tess the truth, Ellie asked to use the bathroom. Once she left, Tess turned to Joel and said what she was starting to believe. Ellie might really be immune, especially since she was born after the outbreak. But Joel wasn't convinced. He had seen false hope before, people who showed delayed symptoms only to turn violent later. In his mind, it was only a matter of time before Ellie changed too. Joel pushed for an exit plan, drop the mission, return to the quarantine zone, and find another way to get what they needed. But Tess refused. She had seen enough to believe that Ellie was different, and this mission was worth finishing. Later, Tess told Ellie they were moving forward. She offered her food, but Ellie declined. Marlene had already packed enough for her. The sight of the supplies made it clear Ellie wasn't just another package. The Fireflies were protecting her for a reason. That reason, Tess believed, was immunity. Tess asked why Marlene brought her. Ellie hesitated, saying it was supposed to be a secret, but under pressure, she gave in. Marlene and the Fireflies believed Ellie's blood could hold the key to a cure. They hoped to develop medicine or even a vaccine. Joel dismissed it immediately. He'd heard promises before. None ever delivered. No vaccine, no cure, just more lies. Still, Tess stood firm. She believed Ellie might be their only hope. and she was done running. With no real choice left, Joel agreed to continue. But he made one thing clear: if Ellie even flinched the wrong way, he'd shoot. Ellie, unfazed, joked with him, pretending to seize. Tess quickly shut it down and told her to get ready. There was no time to waste. The mission was back on. While traveling, Joel, Tess, and Ellie encountered a collapsed building blocking their route. Joel quickly chose to detour, keeping to open ground to avoid any infected hiding in the ruins. As they moved, Tess asked Ellie how she got bitten. Ellie explained that a few weeks earlier, she had snuck into an abandoned mall inside the quarantine zone. It had been sealed off by Fedra. Inside, one of the hidden infected attacked and bit her. Tess was impressed. Ellie, only 14, had shown more courage than most. Curious, Ellie asked them about the different types of infected she had heard about in rumors. But Joel and Tess stayed silent. A sudden noise cut off the conversation. They moved on without answering.
Let's keep moving.
Their new route led them into the flooded remains of a hotel. With no other safe path, they had no choice but to go through it. Ellie, raised inside a shelter her entire life, was fascinated. She joked and pretended to be a hotel guest, exploring with wonder, until she slipped. A skeleton surfaced in the water, startling her. Joel quickly stepped in and helped her up. They climbed the stairs to reach the 10th floor, but debris blocked their way. Tess took the lead to scout another route, leaving Joel and Ellie behind to wait. While they rested, Ellie asked how long the infected could survive. Joel explained that most only lasted a month or two, but some, he had heard, had survived for 20 years. Soon, Tess returned. She opened a nearby door and called them to follow. What she found was alarming. From the upper floor, they could see a large group of infected gathered below. Ellie froze. This was her first time seeing them in such numbers. Tess explained that the last time they came through this area, there were only a few. She believed that survivors had recently tried to take shelter there, but were infected instead, causing the number of infected to grow rapidly. Moments later, Ellie noticed something alarming. When sunlight hit a group of infected, they all moved at once, as if they were when Tess confirmed it. The infected weren't acting alone. They were linked, not just to each other, but to the cordyceps fungus that stretched through the ground for more than a kilometer. One wrong step on an active patch could send a signal and bring a swarm right to them. With the street swarming with infected, Joel made a quick decision. They would go through the museum. A path on the upper floor could lead them to safety. At the museum entrance, Joel inspected the fungus coating the walls. It was dry and dead, a good sign. Still, the danger wasn't over. Joel and Tess geared up, knowing the infected could still be inside. Ellie was told to stay sharp and ready. Inside, the only light came from their flashlights. They moved carefully until they came across a man's body.
Oh shit.
Fresh claw marks ripped across his chest. Joel and Tess instantly recognized what they were dealing with. Those wounds meant clickers, blind, but deadly. They climbed to the second floor in total silence. Everything depended on not making a sound. Then it happened. The ceiling gave out. A loud crash echoed through the halls. The clickers heard it. They came fast. Chaos broke out. Joel and Tess fought to keep Ellie safe as the group scattered. Joel drew one of the clickers away, giving Ellie a chance to hide. He reloaded his weapon, staying focused. Every move had to count. After a brutal fight, they killed the clickers.
Well, I didn't shit my pants.
Breathing heavily, Ellie revealed something unexpected. She'd been bitten again. Still no symptoms. She was calm. Joel, unsettled but focused, sent Ellie ahead to the next building. Then he turned back to help Tess, who had injured her leg while escaping. Joel hesitated. Ellie had now been bitten twice, and yet she still showed no signs of infection. It didn't make sense. He questioned everything. But Tess stood firm. She believed Ellie was immune, truly immune. Soon, Joel joined Ellie, who was staring at the distant statehouse, mesmerized. But time was running out. The sun was setting, and Tess urged them to move fast before darkness made things worse. As they walked, Joel kept looking at Ellie's injured arm. He still had doubts, wondering if she was truly immune or just taking longer to turn. The thought stayed with him. They reached the statehouse, but something was wrong. No guards, no sign of the fireflies. Tess pushed them inside, and the truth hit hard. The fireflies were dead. Some had already been infected. Whatever was planned here had failed. Panic surged through Tess. She scrambled to find anything, a map, a radio, any way to finish the deal. But it was too late. Joel and Ellie realized the truth. Tess had been bitten. Tess didn't deny it. She showed them the bite on her neck, fresh and unmistakable. Then she asked Ellie to reveal her own. The difference was clear. Ellie's wound was healing, fading. Tess's was not. That was the proof they needed. Tess, trembling, knew she had little time left. She gave Joel one last task: get Ellie to Bill and Frank in Lincoln. Ellie was their only shot at stopping the outbreak. Protecting her was no longer just a mission. It was the only thing that mattered. Joel was torn. Doubt clouded his mind, but he knew there was no turning back. The mission had to go on. Ellie had to be delivered to the fireflies. That was the deal. That was the only path forward. Suddenly, an infected lunged from the shadows. Joel took it down fast, but not fast enough. The creature had touched an active patch of cordyceps fungus. That one contact triggered a signal underground, calling a swarm straight to their location. Joel knew what was coming. He told them to run, but Tess stayed behind. She had made her choice. She was already infected. She would buy them time. Tess rigged the building with explosives and gave Joel one final order: keep Ellie alive. Joel and Ellie escaped just as the horde closed in. Seconds later, Tess triggered the blast. The building erupted in flames, taking her and the swarm with it. Later, Joel and Ellie camped in a quiet forest. Joel slipped away to the river to clean up, but grief weighed heavily on him. Tess had been more than a partner. She was part of his life. Now, she was gone. When he returned, Ellie was awake. She was silent, still shaken. She hadn't wanted to leave Tess behind, but Joel had pulled her out before it was too late. Since then, Joel had barely spoken. Ellie tried to connect, tried to talk, but he ignored her. Frustrated, Ellie finally spoke up. No one had forced him or Tess to take this job. No one had made them say yes. They chose this path. She reminded Joel that blaming her for what happened wasn't fair. Joel said nothing for a moment, but her words hit hard. She was right. Without another word, Joel finally looked at her and gave the signal. It was time to move. The mission wasn't over, and now they had to finish it together. As they walked, Ellie asked about Bill and Frank, the two people Tess had told Joel to bring her to. Joel explained that he and Tess used to trade with them regularly. Frank was kind, and their place had always been a reliable stop for supplies. Ellie, still curious and eager to be more involved, asked for a gun. Joel shut it down immediately. She was still a kid, and in his eyes, that was reason enough. After hours of hiking, they reached a remote farming area. Joel led her into an abandoned shop where he and Tess had hidden emergency supplies years ago. It was part of their routine, stashing gear along the route in case things went wrong. Inside, Ellie lit up at the sight of an old arcade machine. It didn't work, but she pretended to play anyway. Joel dug through the place, searching for the hidden stash. Ellie, ignoring his warning that there was nothing useful left, wandered off to check the back rooms. At one moment, she found a door leading to a basement. Without telling Joel, she went in. Using her flashlight, she explored the dark space and smiled when she discovered a box of tampons, rare and useful. But then, a noise, growling. Ellie turned and saw a runner pinned under debris, partially turned, moaning in pain. Not yet a clicker, but close. Without hesitation, she ended him. Quick, clean. No one else needed to do it. Upstairs, Joel finally found the supplies. When Ellie didn't answer his calls, he grabbed his weapon, ready for anything. Moments later, Ellie reappeared calmly and showed him what she found, slipping the tampons into her bag without saying much more. She was learning fast and acting on her own. Ellie was stunned when Joel chose to leave one of his weapons behind in the store. He explained that the ammunition was nearly impossible to find, making the gun more of a burden than an asset. Still, he refused to hand it over to Ellie, frustrating her even more. They pressed on and came across the wreckage of a plane scattered across a hillside. Ellie stood frozen, amazed by the ruins of something she had only heard about. She asked if Joel had ever flown. He had, but admitted he never liked it. As they walked, Ellie grew more curious. She asked Joel how the cordyceps infection started and spread so quickly. She guessed maybe it began with a monkey biting a human. Joel didn't know the exact origin, but he had a theory. He believed the fungus mutated and contaminated the global food supply, specifically flour. It ended up in everyday products like bread, cereal, and pancake mix. People ate it, got sick, then infected others. Within days, the world collapsed. Ellie listened carefully, then agreed. It made sense. She thanked him for the answer. Suddenly, Joel stopped. Something ahead made him uneasy. Without explaining, he told Ellie they needed to take a detour through the forest. Whatever was in their path wasn't meant for her to see. But Ellie didn't listen. She pushed forward, driven by curiosity. Joel had already said it wasn't dangerous, and she wanted to know what he was trying to hide. She wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Ellie was stunned. In front of her was a deep pit filled with human skeletons, dumped and forgotten. Joel explained the truth. After the infection spread rapidly across the country, soldiers were ordered to evacuate small towns. They took people to quarantine zones, but only if there was enough space. When the zones were full, the orders changed. Anyone left behind was executed, even if they weren't infected. Ellie was horrified. She couldn't understand why the innocent were killed. Joel's answer was blunt. Dead people can't be infected. It was cruel but effective. The scene shifted to the past. Soldiers moved through a quiet town, rounding up families, loading them onto trucks. As the last of the townspeople gathered, one man stayed hidden, Bill. Inside his house, Bill watched everything through a network of security cameras. He refused to leave. He had prepared for this moment. When soldiers entered the house looking for survivors, Bill stayed silent, hidden in a basement bunker. Once the area was clear, Bill emerged. The town was empty. He was alone, but he was ready. With years of survival knowledge and a stockpile of weapons and supplies, Bill set to work. He collected fuel, restarted the power, and fortified his home. He laid traps, reinforced barriers, and prepared to defend his ground against anything that came near. Bill didn't stop at defenses. He planted crops, built a farm, and turned his home into a fully self-sustained settlement. He had no idea when the outbreak would end, so he prepared to live through it, no matter how long it took. In just a short time, Bill had built a functioning base for long-term survival. 4 years later, while fixing equipment, Bill's alarm went off. Someone had fallen into one of his perimeter traps. Grabbing his gun, he went to check and found a man trapped in a pit. The man claimed he wasn't infected and introduced himself as Frank. He said he'd been running from infected that destroyed his own settlement before falling into the trap. Bill cautiously helped him out, checking him for any sign of infection. Frank was clear, but Bill still forced him out. Frank begged for food, saying he hadn't eaten in days. He promised to leave right after. Bill, reluctant but fair, led him inside for a meal. He even allowed Frank to clean up and gave him fresh clothes. But Frank never left. Days turned into months, and the two built a bond. They stayed together, protecting and caring for one another. Over time, they became more than partners in survival. They became partners in life. 3 years later, a new argument broke out. Frank was frustrated with Bill's indifference to the outside view, calling the place run down and depressing. Bill didn't care. His focus was survival, not scenery. But Frank pushed back. He promised to clean and fix everything himself. He just needed some tools. Bill gave in, not because he agreed, but because he didn't want to keep fighting. Frank wanted more than survival. He wanted something that looked like life. Bill still didn't understand it fully, but he let him try. Frank eventually revealed he had made contact with other survivors through a radio signal and had invited them to visit. Those survivors turned out to be Joel and Tess. They arrived at Bill and Frank's settlement, drawn by the rare promise of a hot meal and a peaceful view, luxuries they could never find inside the quarantine zone. Frank welcomed them warmly. Bill didn't. He stayed cautious, armed, and on edge, even during lunch. While Frank gave Tess a tour inside, Joel tried to gain Bill's trust. He explained they were simply trying to survive, just like them. Joel offered a deal. He had access to items Bill couldn't easily find, like medicine and spare machine parts. A trade could benefit both sides. Before leaving, Joel warned Bill and Frank about raiders, violent thieves who targeted independent settlements. But Bill dismissed the warning. He believed his defenses were enough. One night, the threat became real. A group of looters tried to breach the compound. Bill grabbed his rifle and fought them off, protecting everything he had built. He managed to stop the attack, but not without getting shot. Frank dragged him inside and treated the wound with what little medical supplies they had. It was rough, but it worked. Bill survived, thanks to Frank. 10 years passed. They were still together. But Frank's health had declined. He was now in a wheelchair, weakened by illness. Bill stayed by his side, caring for him every day. The man who once trusted no one had found someone he couldn't live without. One day, Frank told Bill the truth. His time was running out. He asked Bill to keep going, even after he was gone. But the words hit hard. Bill couldn't hide his pain. He knew what was coming, and nothing had ever hurt more than the thought of losing Frank. In the present, Joel and Ellie finally reached Bill's settlement. But what once stood as a stronghold now looked worn down and forgotten. The buildings were falling apart, the grounds left untended. Joel, who knew the gate code from past visits, unlocked it and led Ellie inside without trouble. They walked to Bill's house. Inside, the silence was unsettling. Furniture was dusty, the air stale. It looked like no one had lived there for a long time. Joel told Ellie to wait downstairs while he went up to check the rooms. As he climbed, Ellie wandered into the living room and found a note with Joel's name on it. When Joel came back, Ellie handed him the letter. Joel already suspected the truth. Bill and Frank were gone. He said nothing at first, but the pain showed on his face. He told Ellie to read it aloud. The letter confirmed his fears. Bill told Joel not to enter the bedroom. He gave Joel permission to take whatever he needed, supplies, weapons, anything. At the end of the letter, Bill asked Joel to protect Tess, but Joel couldn't keep that promise. Tess was already gone. Later, Joel checked the garage. To his relief, Bill had left behind a working car and even prepped a battery for it. They had a way forward. Joel returned to Ellie and laid down 3 rules. First, no talking about Tess. Second, never show her bite to anyone. People wouldn't ask questions, they'd just shoot. Third, she had to do exactly what he said. Ellie agreed. She knew she didn't have any other option. With that, Joel told her the next step. They would find his brother, Tommy, and try to locate the Fireflies. He still had a job to finish, and Ellie might still be the key to ending everything. Moments later, Joel brought Ellie down to the basement of Bill's house, where she froze in disbelief at the sight of a full wall of weapons and gear. The collection was overwhelming. To Ellie, it was clear Bill had been a survival expert. She called him a genius. Seeing the arsenal, Ellie once again asked Joel for a gun. He refused. She was still too young in his eyes. As Joel packed the supplies they needed, Ellie quietly searched around the house. In a drawer, she found Frank's handgun. Without telling Joel, she slipped it into her bag. Once everything was ready, they got into Bill's car and hit the road. Their goal? Find Tommy. Later, they stopped at a deserted gas station. Joel began siphoning fuel from old cars, showing the skill of someone who had done this too many times before. While he worked, Ellie stayed inside, alone with her new secret weapon. She stood in front of a mirror, pretending to aim the gun, acting like she was in charge. She tucked it away and went back to Joel. Watching him transfer gas into a jerry can, Ellie was curious. Joel promised to teach her how to do it herself, just in case she ever had to survive on her own. Trying to break the tension, Ellie pulled out a book of jokes and read a few lines. Joel didn't react. Instead, he told her to wait in the car. After refueling, they got back on the road, heading for Wyoming. Hours passed, and as night fell, Joel turned the car into a forest clearing. They would camp there until morning. Shortly after, Joel cooked a meal using ingredients from Bill's stockpile. Ellie dug in, impressed by how prepared Bill had been. Even in death, he had left everything ready for them. Joel agreed. In all his years, he had never met anyone who planned as completely as Bill. His legacy was survival, built with purpose, and left behind for someone who needed it. As they prepared to spend the night in the forest, Ellie suggested making a campfire. Joel shut the idea down immediately. The lights, he warned, could bring more than the infected. It could draw in something worse. Bandits, the kind that killed without hesitation, hunting down survivors for their supplies and weapons. Ellie got the message. She stayed quiet and did what Joel said. Later, while lying under the stars, Ellie flipped through a book using a flashlight. She tried to catch Joel off guard with a joke, but he beat her to the punch, guessing the answer. Ellie pouted, disappointed he ruined the moment, but Joel smirked when she wasn't looking. For a brief second, he let himself enjoy it. He told her to sleep. They had to move early. While Ellie drifted off, Joel stayed awake. He couldn't risk relaxing. Not out here. By morning, Joel was already packing. Ellie wanted more sleep, but Joel told her it was time to go. On the road again, Ellie studied a map, then asked about Joel's brother. At first, Joel didn't answer, but Ellie pushed, and finally he opened up. Tommy had served in Iraq, trained and disciplined. After the army, he returned to civilian life just before the outbreak changed everything. Joel explained that Tommy had once joined the Fireflies after being convinced by Marlene, but later chose to leave the group. Since then, no one had heard from him. Joel believed Tommy was now on his own, isolated and vulnerable. That's why he was determined to find him. Ellie asked what would happen if they couldn't find him. Joel didn't hesitate. He said he would find Tommy no matter what. Giving up wasn't an option. His plan was to head for the radio tower in Cody, Tommy's last known location. If Tommy wasn't there, Joel would search the nearby survivor communities until he found him. Hours later, they reached a highway blocked by wreckage. Joel had no choice but to stop the car. He told Ellie to stay inside while he checked the area near the tunnel ahead. The tunnel was empty, too empty. That made Joel uneasy. He knew that what lay ahead might be more dangerous than infected. Instead of burning fuel looking for a new route, Joel chose a shortcut around the bridge. They moved through the silent streets of an abandoned city. Buildings were broken. The quarantine zone had fallen, left in ruins. Then they saw a man in the distance. He was injured and asking for help. But Joel didn't stop. He knew the setup. Seconds later, it happened. A heavy concrete block slammed into their windshield. Tire spikes shredded the wheels. Joel lost control and the car crashed into a nearby shop. Joel had already guessed the city was crawling with bandits. The moment the ambush started, he grabbed his gun and ordered Ellie to hide. He moved fast and hit hard, taking down several attackers in the shootout. But while he was focused on the main fight, one bandit, Brian, slipped behind him, ready to strike. Ellie saw it. Without thinking, she pulled out Frank's gun and fired. The shot hit Brian, stopping him before he could kill Joel. Bleeding and desperate, Brian begged for his life. He offered supplies, anything to survive. Joel turned, stunned to see Ellie holding a weapon. He quickly took control, told her to hand it over, and sent her back into hiding. Seconds later, Ellie heard Brian scream, then go silent. Joel had finished it. He didn't wait. More attackers would come. Joel grabbed Ellie and rushed her out of the area, looking for a safe place before the rest of the group could catch them. Meanwhile, in Kansas City, a woman named Kathleen led a powerful rebel faction that had taken control after Fedra's collapse. Brian was one of theirs. Kathleen was now interrogating an old man named Edelstein. She was after one name, Henry Burrell, the man who had killed her brother. Edelstein swore he didn't know where Henry was, but Kathleen didn't believe him. She pressed harder, even pointed a gun at his head, convinced he was hiding the truth. When she got nothing, she left the room, only to be met with more bad news. Brian and several others were dead. She demanded answers. Perry, her second-in-command, told her the attackers weren't local. They had found a vehicle nearby, full of gear, loaded with supplies, but clearly not Fedra property. Hearing this, Kathleen made a clear and brutal decision. She blamed the killings on Henry and ordered her people to hunt down and kill anyone who wasn't part of their group. No exceptions. Perry acted fast. He led a heavily armed squad through the city, going door to door in a relentless search for the intruders. Meanwhile, Joel and Ellie were hiding inside an abandoned bar. From there, they learned that a militant group calling themselves the People was hunting them. Their only plan was to reach a tall building a few blocks away, but they had to wait until the streets were quiet before making a move. While they waited, Joel brought up what had happened. He explained why he had never wanted Ellie to carry a weapon, because once you pull the trigger, there's a weight that never leaves. He didn't want her to carry that burden. Ellie admitted she was shaken. She had cried after it happened. But then she told Joel something he didn't expect. This wasn't the first time. She had hurt someone before. Her emotions were complicated, but she understood one thing. Sometimes there's no other way if you want to survive and protect the people you care about. Hearing that, Joel saw that Ellie was no longer just a kid. She understood the world now. Without saying much more, he handed Frank's gun back to her. This time, she was allowed to keep it, and he taught her how to handle it properly. When the time was right, Joel gave the signal. It was time to move. The danger hadn't passed, but waiting any longer would only make things worse. They had to keep going. Elsewhere, Perry led Kathleen to an attic believed to be one of Henry's former hiding spots. From the signs inside, it was clear he had been there but had left after running out of food. Kathleen quickly concluded that Henry was planning to steal from their food supply next. She ordered Perry to tighten security around the warehouse immediately. Then Perry showed her something worse beneath one of the buildings. The ground was shifting, pulsing, and beginning to crack open. Perry was alarmed. He urged Kathleen to tell the others and evacuate while they still had time. But Kathleen dismissed the danger. Her focus was locked on one goal: find Henry and the outsiders who killed Brian and the others. Before leaving, she told Perry to seal the building and increase the guard. No one was to get in or out. Meanwhile, Joel and Ellie reached the tall building they hoped would keep them out of sight. But the climb was brutal. The elevators were long dead, and with over 30 floors to climb, Joel's strength started to give out. When they hit the 33rd floor, he called it. They would stay there. Inside one of the rooms, Joel told Ellie to help get the space ready for the night. While she cleared a corner, he spread broken glass by the entrances, a simple trap to alert him if anyone tried to sneak in. Ellie, however, was skeptical. She knew Joel had hearing loss on one side and wasn't sure he'd notice the sound. Before sleep, they talked quietly. Ellie threw out another joke. This time she caught Joel off guard, and he actually laughed. For the first time, they both let their guard down. It was a small moment, but it showed their trust was growing. In the middle of the night, Joel and Ellie were jolted awake. Two strangers stood over them with guns drawn. It was Henry and his younger brother, Sam. The tension was immediate. No one moved. The story then jumped back, 11 days before Joel and Ellie entered Kansas City. At that time, a rebel group called the People had just overthrown Fedra and seized control of the city. Celebrations filled the streets as their long fight came to an end. But in the shadows, Henry and Sam were running for their lives. The same rebels now ruling the city were hunting them down. Henry moved carefully, trying to calm Sam, who was deaf, using sign language. Then he led him away before anyone could find them. Meanwhile, Kathleen wasn't wasting time. She had rounded up several citizens accused of working with Phaedra and locked them in a cell. During the interrogation, one of them admitted seeing Henry and Sam somewhere near the city center, though he didn't know exactly where. That was enough. Kathleen ordered Perry to gather every available soldier and begin a sweep. Perry warned they were short on manpower. Kathleen didn't care. She wanted the brothers found and executed publicly. At the same time, Henry led Sam to an abandoned building. Inside, they met Edelstein, who was waiting to help. He guided them to an attic where they could hide. There were just enough supplies to survive a few days. Now all they could do was wait and hope for a way out before time ran out. Moments later, Edelstein told Henry he had only managed to steal a few cans of food from the warehouse. The armory was too heavily guarded. He couldn't get the bullets Henry had asked for. Henry didn't argue. He had no interest in a gunfight. Their escape plan relied on staying hidden and using the tunnels beneath the city to slip out unnoticed. With the supplies they had, Henry estimated they could survive for about 11 days. Henry then turned to Sam, who was curled up quietly in the corner. He knelt beside him and reassured him that they were safe, for now. To lift his spirits, Henry handed him a pack of crayons, knowing how much Sam loved to draw. 10 days later, Henry watched from the window. Outside, rebel patrols still swept the streets on Kathleen's orders. She wasn't giving up the hunt. Inside, Sam was growing weak from hunger. Their food was almost gone. Henry told him to hold on a little longer, hoping Edelstein would return with help. But days passed. There was no sign of Edelstein. Henry feared the worst. He had likely been captured. That night, knowing they couldn't stay any longer, Henry made the decision to leave. The next morning, he woke Sam and explained that Edelstein wasn't coming back. They needed to go find food. Sam asked if Edelstein had died. Henry, trying to be honest, said the rebels probably caught and executed him. Sam was heartbroken. Henry pulled him close and promised him one thing: he would never leave him. No matter what happened, he would protect his little brother to the end. Henry carefully painted around Sam's eyes, turning him into the superhero Sam had always dreamed of becoming. It was a small act of hope in a world falling apart. As they prepared to leave their hideout, gunfire erupted outside. Startled, Henry and Sam quickly backed away and decided to wait for the chaos to calm. Curious, Henry peeked through a window and saw rebels locked in a shootout with an outsider, Joel. Watching Joel handle the fight with skill and precision, Henry came up with a new plan. He turned to Sam and told him they needed to make a change. Meanwhile, Edelstein had been captured by Kathleen's forces. She interrogated him, demanding to know where Henry and Sam were. But Edelstein refused to speak. He claimed he knew nothing. That same moment, Kathleen received word of the firefight that left several of her men dead. Enraged, she assumed Henry had found help. Outsiders were aiding him. Fueled by anger, Kathleen returned to Edelstein's cell and executed him for refusing to betray Henry. That night, Henry and Sam made their move. They sneaked into the building where Joel and Ellie were hiding. As they stepped through the entrance, their feet crunched over broken glass Joel had left as an alarm. Luckily, it didn't wake him. Henry handed an unloaded gun to Sam and told him to aim it at Joel. It wasn't a threat, it was leverage for a peaceful approach. Moments later, Joel and Ellie woke up, startled to find two strangers holding them at gunpoint. Henry quickly spoke. They weren't there to fight, they wanted to team up. Once he saw Joel lower his guard, Henry introduced himself and Sam. He explained that he was the most wanted man in the city, and now, after killing several rebels, Joel probably ranked second. Henry said he trusted them. He dropped his weapon to prove it. He was done hiding. He needed allies. And now, with Joel and Ellie, he finally had a chance to get out. Soon after, Joel and Ellie introduced themselves and, despite having little food left after their fight with the rebels, shared what they had with Henry and Sam. The gesture meant a lot. Henry and Sam were clearly grateful. This was the first time in days anyone had shown them kindness. The next morning, from the top floor of the building, they looked out over the ruined city. Henry explained how the rebels had managed to defeat Phaedra and take control. Joel said he'd heard rumors that Phaedra in this area was brutal, known for torture and executions. Henry confirmed it. The people had finally fought back and won. Then Henry revealed something else. He had been a collaborator. Joel reacted immediately, refusing to work with him. To Joel, helping Phaedra made Henry a traitor. But Henry didn't flinch. He said they needed each other. He knew the city's layout, and Joel had the skills to keep them alive. He also admitted the truth. His gun was empty. He couldn't protect himself or Sam. Joel didn't trust him, but when he learned Sam was only 8 and the rebels would kill the boy without hesitation, his attitude shifted. He asked how they planned to escape the city. Before answering, Henry pointed out something strange. There hadn't been a single infected sighting since Joel and Ellie arrived. Ellie agreed. That's when Henry revealed the reason. Years ago, Phaedra had forced the infected underground. For the past 15 years, they had stayed there. Henry explained that the main roads were blocked by Kathleen's men, but there was another way out, a maintenance tunnel beneath the city. It led to a neighborhood on the edge of the river, which marked the outer limits of Kansas City. Joel wanted to know if Henry had ever used the tunnel. Henry said he hadn't, but a Phaedra soldier once told him it was clear and safe. Kathleen believed the infected were still inside, so she wouldn't search it. It was risky, but possibly their only escape. Before stepping into the tunnel, Joel warned Ellie to be ready to use her gun. He told Henry and Sam to stay close and be ready to run if anything went wrong. As they moved in, Henry seemed relieved. The tunnel was empty, just as he hoped. But Joel didn't let his guard down. He reminded them that they didn't know what could be waiting deeper inside. As they walked farther, they reached a room that looked like it had once been a school. The walls were covered in children's drawings, and there were toys and books scattered around. Joel recalled stories of survivors who had built underground settlements like this, but most didn't last. They broke rules, took risks, and eventually got infected. Ellie and Sam brightened up when they found a comic book they both loved. Ellie even began trying to learn sign language to speak with Sam more easily.
And back. Endure. Survive. Fuck yeah, man.
At one moment, Ellie begged Joel to let them rest there for a while. Henry backed her up, saying it was safer to stay underground until nightfall. Joel agreed. While the kids played and laughed for a rare moment of peace, Joel and Henry sat down for a serious talk. Henry finally revealed the truth. He hadn't wanted to betray anyone, but he had no choice. Sam had leukemia. The only treatment came from Phaedra, and it wasn't free. The price was information. So Henry gave up Michael, the leader of the revolution, and Kathleen's brother. His tip led Phaedra to kill Michael. That betrayal made Henry the most wanted man in Kansas City. Kathleen's obsession with revenge was personal. Joel didn't respond at first. There was nothing to say. He understood what it meant to protect someone you love. After a long pause, he told everyone to get ready. They couldn't stay any longer. It was time to move. Not long after, Joel and the group finally made it out of the tunnel and reached the abandoned neighborhood Henry had described. Everything seemed to be going according to plan. No infected, no soldiers. It looked like they were in the clear until a gunshot rang out. A sniper was hiding in a house ahead, firing at them. Joel quickly ordered Ellie, Henry, and Sam to take cover. He circled around the block, moving quietly toward the house. Once inside, he found the sniper, an elderly man with a rifle aimed at the street. Joel gave him a chance to surrender, but the man didn't listen. He raised his weapon, and Joel was forced to shoot him. Moments later, Joel discovered the worst. The old man had already radioed Kathleen and her forces. They were on their way. Joel rushed to the window and shouted for the others to run. From his position, he tried to cover them as armed rebels poured into the area, but it was too late. Kathleen and her soldiers quickly surrounded Henry, Ellie, and Sam. With no escape, Henry stepped forward. He offered to surrender if she let the kids go. Kathleen didn't care. She made it clear. Ellie was with the man who had killed her people, and Sam was the brother of a traitor. To her, that made them just as guilty. She wasn't like her brother. He had been merciful. She wasn't. Just as Kathleen raised her weapon to kill Henry, the ground beneath them gave way and collapsed, opening a massive hole. From it, a swarm of infected burst out and launched a brutal attack on Kathleen's forces. Chaos exploded in seconds. In the middle of it all, Henry scrambled to get Ellie and Sam to safety. Joel, positioned above, provided cover, firing at any threat that got too close. But things turned fast. Clickers knocked Ellie to the ground, separating her from Henry and Sam, who managed to escape ahead. From his vantage point, Joel spotted Ellie and quickly shifted his fire to protect her. Ellie managed to crawl into a car to hide, but her relief was short-lived. A child infected spotted her and climbed inside. With no other choice, Ellie jumped out and ran, searching for Henry and Sam, who were now surrounded by the horde. Joel, watching her closely, anticipated her moves. He opened a path with well-placed shots, giving Ellie the chance to reach them. With no bullets left, Ellie pulled out her knife and fought her way through. She managed to take down the infected, saving Henry and Sam just in time. Elsewhere, Kathleen and Perry were stunned when the bloater emerged, massive, armored in thick fungus, and nearly impossible to kill. Perry ordered Kathleen to run. He stayed back to fight, but it was hopeless. The bloater crushed him without effort. As Henry, Ellie, and Sam made a run for it, Kathleen blocked their path, gun raised again. But before she could pull the trigger, an infected leaped from the wreckage and attacked her. As a result, Joel shouted for the others to move. They didn't look back. Joel, Henry, Ellie, and Sam escaped the carnage and fled the city. Later that night, they took shelter in a rundown motel, finally getting a moment to breathe after the nightmare they had just survived. In the motel room, Ellie discovered the terrible truth. Sam had been bitten. Desperate to save him, she showed him the bite mark on her own arm. She told Sam her blood might be the cure. Without hesitation, Ellie cut her hand open and smeared her blood onto the bite wound on Sam's leg, hoping it would stop the infection before it took over. Sam, terrified, made her promise not to tell Joel or Henry. Ellie agreed, keeping the secret to herself. But the next morning, everything fell apart. Sam had turned. Now infected, he lunged at Ellie. Joel rushed to intervene, but Henry grabbed his gun and held Joel at gunpoint, confused and panicked. Then it happened. Henry reacted on instinct and shot Sam in the head. The silence afterward was crushing. He stared at what he had done, frozen with grief. In one moment, he had saved Ellie, but lost his brother. Joel tried to talk him down, urging him to hand over the gun. But Henry, overwhelmed by guilt and despair, prepared the weapon and do the unthinkable.
What did I do? Henry, no!
Later, Joel and Ellie buried them side by side. Ellie was heartbroken. At the grave, she placed a small message that simply said she was sorry. 3 months passed. Winter arrived. Joel and Ellie continued their journey through snow-covered wilderness. In Wyoming, they finally came across a small cabin hidden deep in the forest. Inside lived an old man named Marlin and his wife, Florence. Joel immediately demanded information about Tommy holding Florence at gunpoint, but she didn't flinch. Calmly, she made soup for them. She saw through the threat. Joel wasn't there to hurt them. He was just a man chasing his only family. Marlin confirmed it. Joel and Ellie had lost their way after leaving Cody. Now at least they knew where they were. Later, Marlin warned Joel that every settlement in the region had already fallen. If Tommy had survived, the only way out would have been across the river. But Florence was blunter. She said no one made it across. Whatever lived beyond that river didn't leave survivors. Despite their warnings, Joel refused to turn back. Tommy was the only family he had left, and he needed his brother's help to find the Fireflies. Finishing the mission and getting Ellie to the right people was all that mattered now. But as they prepared to move on, something hit Joel hard. His chest tightened, his breathing faltered. It was a panic attack brought on by the weight of everything he had lost. The memories were still there, buried but never gone. Ellie noticed something was wrong, but Joel quickly pushed it aside, claiming he was fine. They pressed forward toward the river. After walking for hours, Joel and Ellie stopped for the night, choosing a cave near the river to rest. Tomorrow, they would cross. That night, Joel sat quietly, wrapping duct tape around his worn-out boot while Ellie watched the northern lights flicker in the sky. Joel, always cautious, warned her to be careful. One wrong step could be deadly. They shared a quiet moment, talking about life after the mission. If the Fireflies made a cure, he wondered what would happen next. With this question, Joel imagined a peaceful life in a quiet farmhouse. Ellie had bigger dreams. She wanted to become an astronaut, to leave the Earth behind. Then Ellie opened up. She told Joel about Sam, how she tried to save him by using her blood. But it hadn't worked. Joel listened, then told her it wasn't that simple. If there was hope for a cure, Marlene and the Fireflies would need to do it the right way. It was the only chance they had. Eventually, Joel told Ellie to get some rest while he kept watch through the night. But by morning, he woke to an unexpected sight. Ellie was standing guard at the cave entrance, holding his gun. She explained she had woken up during the night and found him asleep, so she took over. Joel apologized, quietly frustrated with himself for letting his guard down. He took the weapon back and reminded Ellie to always wake him next time. Then they packed up and continued their journey. Soon they crossed the river using a bridge, moving cautiously but without trouble. For once, the path was quiet. Ellie even managed to enjoy the moment, practicing how to whistle.
I'm learning how to whistle.
You don't know how to whistle?
Does it sound like I know how to whistle?
Eventually, they reached a dam. Joel explained it was once used to generate power, though he admitted he had no idea how it worked. After walking for some time beyond the dam, Ellie pointed out the riverbank and guessed this must be the so-called River of Death that Marlon and Florence had warned them about. Joel checked the map to be sure. Concerned, he told Ellie they had to move quickly and get out of the area. But before they could leave, a group of armed riders appeared and surrounded them. Weapons drawn, the riders didn't give Joel or Ellie a chance to talk. Joel tried to explain they were just passing through. The leader gave a signal. A trained dog was sent forward, one that could detect infection by scent and would attack without hesitation. The dog slowly approached Joel, sniffed him, and then moved on. Joel had passed the test. He wasn't infected. Joel tensed as the dog approached Ellie. She stood frozen, terrified it would sense the infection in her, even though she was immune. But to everyone's surprise, the dog simply sniffed her, then licked her hand. No growl, no attack. The animal sensed no danger. Relieved, Joel quickly told the horseman he was searching for his brother. As soon as he mentioned Tommy's name, their attitude changed. They led Joel and Ellie to a secure settlement, Jackson. When they arrived, Joel and Ellie were stunned. Jackson was a small but thriving community. People were preparing for Christmas, and life seemed peaceful, something neither of them had seen in a long time. Then came the moment Joel had waited for. At a construction site, he spotted Tommy. Without hesitation, Joel called out. Tommy turned, stunned. His face lit up. In seconds, the brothers embraced. After all they'd survived, they were finally reunited. Tommy and a woman named Maria, one of the leaders in Jackson, took Joel and Ellie to a restaurant and offered them a full, warm meal. Ellie, who had lived off scraps for months, was amazed. She said it was the best food she'd had in a long time. As they ate, Ellie noticed a girl staring at her from across the room. Frustrated, she shouted at her. Tommy tried to explain, but Maria calmly said children in Jackson rarely saw outsiders. They were just curious. Joel quickly scolded Ellie, reminding her to act properly. Maria and Tommy apologized, explaining that Jackson didn't welcome outsiders easily. It was the only way to keep the community safe from threats like infected and raiders. Trust had to be earned. After lunch, Joel pulled Maria aside and asked for some time alone to talk privately with Tommy. But Tommy surprised him. Maria wasn't just a leader in the community, she was his wife. Ellie quickly congratulated them and nudged Joel to do the same. Later, Maria and Tommy gave Joel and Ellie a tour of the settlement. They explained that Maria and a group of survivors had founded the community 7 years earlier and built it into a self-sustained commune. Their greatest defense was isolation. They used no radios, no outside communication. No one knew where they were. That secrecy kept them safe, and it was why Tommy had stopped contacting Joel. If he wanted to stay in Jackson, he had to follow the rules. Maria added that the town's electricity came from the dam Joel and Ellie had passed. The population had grown to over 300. Life here was quiet, organized, and protected. Sensing that Joel and Tommy needed a moment, Maria took Ellie to a house the community had prepared for them. Meanwhile, Tommy brought Joel to a nearby bar for a drink. At the bar, Tommy asked about Tess. Joel, not ready to talk about what really happened, lied. He said Tess was fine. He also downplayed Ellie's role, saying she was just a girl trying to find her family among the Fireflies. Tommy listened, then shared important news. The Fireflies had a base in Colorado. It would take about 10 days on horseback to reach it. But he warned Joel the road there was filled with danger. Infected and raiders controlled large parts of the region. If Joel planned to go, it wouldn't be easy. When Joel heard that the Fireflies were within reach, he asked Tommy to join them, but Tommy quickly refused. He revealed that Maria was pregnant, he was going to be a father, and he couldn't risk leaving. Joel didn't take it well. He questioned whether Tommy was ready for fatherhood, accusing him of always relying on others. The words hit hard. Tommy, clearly hurt, fired back, saying Joel had never moved on since Sarah died. But that didn't mean everyone else had to stop living too. Joel, stung and frustrated, walked away and told Tommy he and Ellie would leave in the morning. Outside, Joel's emotions overwhelmed him. He clutched his chest, struggling to breathe as another panic attack set in. In the crowd, he thought he saw Sarah, but it was only a stranger. The memory still haunted him, even after all these years. Meanwhile, Ellie had just finished bathing when she found clean clothes left for her, along with a note from Maria saying she was across the street. Dressed and curious, Ellie went to Maria's house and found a quiet memorial dedicated to Kevin and Sarah. Maria soon arrived, handing Ellie a winter coat and offering to trim her hair. She told Ellie she used to be a district attorney. Law was her job, but hair had always been her passion. When Ellie asked about the names on the memorial, Maria explained Kevin was her son. Then she added something Ellie didn't expect. Sarah was Joel's daughter. Ellie froze. The name was new to her. Maria saw her reaction and realized Joel had never told her. With a serious tone, she warned Ellie, trust should be given carefully. The people who can hurt you most are usually the ones you let closest. That night, while the townspeople gathered at the theater to watch a movie, Ellie sat quietly among them. She noticed Tommy enter the room, scanning the crowd, clearly looking for someone. After a brief word with Maria, he left in a hurry. Elsewhere, Joel was alone in a repair shop, trying to fix his worn-out boots. But the damage was too much. They couldn't be saved. A few minutes later, Tommy walked in and handed Joel a new pair of boots, along with an apology for their earlier argument. Joel accepted the boots, then opened up. He told Tommy the truth. Ellie had been bitten months ago, but she never got sick. She was immune. He also revealed what happened to Tess, who gave her life to protect Ellie, and how Ellie had saved him in Kansas City. Joel's voice broke. He admitted he wasn't the same man he used to be. Age had caught up with him. His hands shook, his mind raced, and panic attacks haunted him almost every night. Worst of all, he felt like he couldn't protect Ellie anymore. With tears in his eyes, Joel asked Tommy to take Ellie to the Fireflies. Tommy, moved by his brother's pain, agreed. Later, Joel walked back to the house that had been set aside for them. Upstairs, he found Ellie in her room, furious. She had overheard everything he said in the shop. In frustration, she brought up Sarah. Joel immediately shut her down, but Ellie pressed on. Everyone she had ever cared about was gone, everyone except him. He was the one person who hadn't left her, and now he was going to.
Don't say another word.
Everybody I have cared for has either died or left me.
Joel, trying to hold back emotion, told her she wasn't his daughter. Then he told her to get ready. Tommy would be taking her to the Fireflies in the morning. That night, Joel sat in his room alone. The weight of everything he had lost pressed down harder than ever. And in the silence, his thoughts drifted back to Sarah, the daughter he could never forget. The next morning, Tommy brought Ellie to the stables, only to find Joel already there, preparing to take a horse and leave. But Joel had changed his mind. He gave Ellie the choice of who she wanted to go with. Without hesitation, she picked him. Before they left, Joel said goodbye to Tommy. In response, Tommy reminded him that Jackson would always be open for both of them. After giving Joel a gun and supplies, Tommy watched as Joel and Ellie rode out of the settlement together.
I'm not flinching.
During the journey to Colorado, Joel and Ellie grew even closer. Joel taught her how to use a sniper rifle, and they shared more about their past. Joel revealed he used to be a contractor, which Ellie thought sounded impressive. Eventually, they reached their destination, a university the Fireflies had once used as a base. But inside, they found nothing. The Fireflies were gone. It looked like they had left in a hurry. Joel searched the area and found clues suggesting they had moved to Salt Lake City. Just as they were about to leave, Joel and Ellie spotted a group of armed men outside. Joel guessed these were the bandits Tommy had warned them about. They tried to sneak out through the back, but one of the men spotted them and attacked. Joel fought him off and killed him, but not without injury. He was stabbed during the struggle. The sound drew the others. Ellie grabbed Joel, forced him onto the horse, and helped him escape while firing shots to slow the attackers down. They managed to outrun the bandits. But not long after, Joel's strength gave out. He collapsed and fell from the horse, leaving Ellie in shock, alone, afraid, and unsure of what to do next. After escaping the bandits, Ellie rushed to save Joel. He was badly injured and fading fast. She dragged him to an abandoned neighborhood and found an empty house where they could hide. Inside, she tried everything she could think of to stop the bleeding and keep him warm. But nothing worked. Joel, barely conscious, pushed her away. He told her to leave, to head north and find Tommy. He believed he wouldn't survive and didn't want her to waste time trying to save him. Ellie stood there, torn. She didn't know how to help him, but she also couldn't leave him behind. If she walked away, he would die. Angry and overwhelmed, she wrapped Joel in blankets to protect him from the cold and stepped out of the room. Joel watched her leave, knowing she might never come back. The story then flashed back to the past, to Ellie's time in the Fedra shelter. She had just fought with a girl named Bethany who had stolen her Walkman. The fight ended with Bethany in the clinic and Ellie facing punishment. Captain Kwong, head of the disciplinary unit, called Ellie in. She'd defended herself, saying Bethany started it, but Kwong reminded her that Bethany needed 15 stitches. He was disappointed. Ellie had potential, but her recent behavior was dragging her down. He laid out her future. If she kept acting out, she'd end up as a grunt, doing boring, thankless work and taking orders from people she couldn't respect. But if she changed? If she followed the rules, her intelligence and determination could take her far. Kwong believed Ellie could become a Fedra officer, someone who gave orders instead of taking them, someone others would follow. He said she had what it took to lead. Ellie listened. She didn't say much, but his words hit her. Before leaving the office, she asked for her Walkman back. That night, Ellie was still angry. Bethany had crossed a line by insulting her best friend, and the fight still echoed in her mind. To calm down, Ellie picked up a book and tried to distract herself, but curfew rules at the Fedra shelter forced her to shut off the light and go to bed. In the middle of the night, she was jolted awake. Someone had entered her room. It was Riley, her best friend, the one she thought might be dead after disappearing for 3 weeks. Shocked, Ellie stared in disbelief. Riley noticed the bruise under Ellie's eye and immediately asked who did it, promising to go after them. Ellie told her not to bother. She had already handled Bethany in the fight. Then came another shock. Riley admitted she had joined the Fireflies. At first, Ellie thought it was a joke, but when Riley showed her a real gun, Ellie realized she was serious. Her best friend had become part of the rebel group Fedra warned everyone about. Riley said she would explain everything, but first she wanted Ellie to come with her just for a few hours. She promised it would be the best night of Ellie's life. Ellie hesitated. She had promised Captain Kwong she would follow the rules. She had training in the morning. But Riley pushed, and in the end, Ellie gave in. They slipped out of the shelter and made their way into an abandoned building. Inside, they found the body of a man who had died recently. Ellie guessed he had overdosed by mixing pills with alcohol. Riley disagreed, thinking it might have been an accident. Either way, the scene was unsettling. As Ellie reached for the alcohol bottle, the floor suddenly gave way. The man's body crashed down to the level below. Spooked, the girls grabbed the bottle and ran, laughing nervously as they escaped the grim scene. On the rooftop, Ellie and Riley took their first sip of the alcohol they'd grabbed. It burned a little, but they agreed it wasn't bad. As they caught their breath, Ellie pressed for the truth, questioning why Riley had joined the Fireflies. Riley finally explained. A few weeks earlier, she had snuck out of the Fedra shelter and met a woman in her 40s. That woman was Marlene, the leader of the Fireflies. Marlene was impressed by how easily Riley moved through the city and asked her opinion about Fedra. Riley told her the truth. She hated it. That was all Marlene needed to hear before inviting her to join the group. Riley said yes on the spot. With that off her chest, Riley led Ellie across the rooftops, leaping from building to building until they reached their destination, an old mall that had been shut down for years. Fedra had sealed it, likely because they believed the infected were still inside. Ellie hesitated, nervous about going in, but Riley promised it was safe, convincing her to follow. Once inside, Riley told Ellie to wait in the main lobby while she went to power up the building. Moments later, the lights flickered on. Ellie stood in awe. For the first time in her life, she saw an entire mall lit up, empty but glowing. It was surreal. She asked if the lights might alert Fedra, but Riley reassured her that the place was sealed off like a bunker. No one would see them. Then Riley took her to the escalator. As it hummed to life, Ellie's face lit up with wonder. She'd never been on one before, and in that moment the world outside felt far away. Shortly after, Riley told Ellie they didn't have much time, then led her deeper into the mall. As they walked past dark storefronts, Ellie noticed something odd. Some stores were stripped bare, while others still held shelves full of items. Riley explained that during the outbreak, people looted whatever they thought they needed. Then the military shut the place down before everything could be taken. After a few more turns, Riley stopped and told Ellie to close her eyes. She guided her to a playground in the heart of the mall, where an old carousel stood silent and forgotten. When Ellie opened her eyes, she was stunned. Riley powered on the machine, and the lights flickered to life. Ellie climbed on, amazed. As they rode, Ellie sensed something wasn't right. She pressed Riley for the truth. Finally, Riley admitted that she'd be turning 17 soon, and Fedra had assigned her to a job she didn't want, managing low-level workers. That pushed her to join the Fireflies. She wanted something different. Riley told Ellie she believed she'd end up with a better future. She was smarter, more capable. To lighten the mood, Riley took Ellie to a photo booth. The photos came out in black and white, the machine too old to print in color. But Ellie didn't mind. It was the first photo she had with her best friend, and Riley told her to keep it. Then came the best surprise. Riley brought Ellie to the arcade, a place Ellie had only dreamed about. Even better, Riley had figured out how to unlock the coin box so they could play every game in the room. They laughed, competed, and forgot the world outside. But somewhere nearby, something stirred. An infected, hidden in the shadows, woke up. The cordyceps was still alive in this place. Unaware of the danger, the girls kept playing. Later, Riley handed Ellie a book of puns as a gift. Ellie lit up. They stood there, trading jokes and laughing. However, their joy ended quickly when Ellie stumbled across homemade bombs hidden inside the mall. She realized the truth. Riley had been stationed there by the Fireflies to guard their weapons. Shocked and betrayed, Ellie demanded answers. Riley tried to explain, but Ellie had already walked away, furious. Riley chased after her, revealing that the Fireflies were sending her to the quarantine zone in Atlanta. She had begged Marlene to let Ellie come too, but Marlene refused. Riley was left with no choice but to leave her behind. It wasn't easy, she said. That's why she came back to say goodbye properly. Ellie, hurt and angry, said her own goodbye and stormed off. But she couldn't stay away. Her anger faded quickly, replaced by regret. She rushed back inside the mall and heard a scream. She panicked and ran toward the sound, only to find it was part of a surprise Riley had planned, hoping Ellie would return. Riley apologized. Ellie forgave her. They danced together, trying to hold on to a moment of happiness.
Come on.
Then Ellie begged Riley not to leave. In a burst of emotion, she kissed her. But that moment was shattered by a sudden attack. An infected charged out of the dark. Riley pulled her gun and yelled for Ellie to run. The girls fought back, but the creature was fast and brutal. Riley was knocked unconscious. Ellie stabbed wildly, buying them time. Riley regained consciousness and joined the fight. Together, they brought the monster down, Ellie finishing it with a knife to the skull. Breathing heavily, thinking they had survived, they looked down and saw the bite marks. Their perfect night was over. Now they faced a new nightmare. Both of them had been infected. Back in the present, Ellie made a choice. She wouldn't leave Joel behind. Desperate to help him, she searched the abandoned house for anything useful. After tearing through drawers and cabinets, she found a needle and thread. With no time to waste, she rushed back and stitched up Joel's wound herself. It wasn't perfect, but it stopped the bleeding. Days passed. Joel was still weak. He needed real medicine to recover, but they had none. Worse, they had no food left. With no other option, Ellie grabbed a rifle and went hunting, braving the freezing winter alone. Elsewhere, in a remote, snow-covered town, a man named David led a small group of survivors in prayer. Supplies were low, and the winter showed no sign of ending. David's group also mourned one of their own, a man who had recently died. After the gathering, a young girl approached David and asked when her father, the man they were praying for, would be buried. David calmly explained that the ground was too frozen to dig, so they would have to wait until spring. Afterward, David's right-hand man, James, pulled him aside. Their food supply would only last one more week. David made a decision. They would go hunting, even though chances of finding anything in the brutal cold were slim. Meanwhile, Ellie spotted a rabbit in the snow. She raised her rifle and aimed, but a misstep startled the rabbit, sending it fleeing. Frustrated but determined, Ellie pressed on through the trees. Then she saw it, a deer. She steadied herself, aimed, and fired. The bullet hit, but the deer ran, injured but not down. Not long after, James and David tracked a blood trail through the snow and eventually came upon a deer that had collapsed from its wounds. As they moved in to claim it, Ellie appeared, rifle raised, and ordered them to drop their weapons. She wasn't backing down. David stayed calm and tried to reason with her. After tense moments, Ellie offered a deal. They could take part of the deer, but only if they gave her medicine to help a wounded man. David agreed and sent James back to their town to get the antibiotics. Ellie, not taking any chances, made sure David and James had no weapons before allowing them near the deer. She then told David to drag the deer to a nearby cabin where they lit a fire to stay warm. As the fire crackled, David tried to get her to talk, but Ellie refused to share anything about herself. David then shared his own story. He and his group had once escaped the chaos of Pittsburgh's quarantine zone during the violent clash between Firefly and Fedra. They thought they'd found safety, but looters kept raiding their camps. They had to keep moving, barely surviving. Now, winter had made everything worse. Crops were dead. His people were starving. In a desperate attempt to find food, David had sent a small team into nearby territory. But only 3 returned. One man, Alec, had been killed by someone traveling with a young girl. David paused, watching Ellie closely. The connection wasn't hard to make. Ellie instantly connected the dots. Alec was one of the men who attacked Joel back at the university. Before she could react further, James returned, gun raised, and aimed at her. But instead of giving the order to fire, David calmly told him to lower the weapon and hand over the medicine. Ellie grabbed it without hesitation and bolted, leaving the deer behind. She had only one focus now, keeping Joel alive. She sprinted back through the snow and returned to the house where Joel lay unconscious. Without wasting a second, she injected the antibiotic straight into his wound, praying it would work. That night, back in David's settlement, a woman named Joyce was cooking dinner for the group when a man delivered a basket filled with red meat. Joyce asked what it was. The man replied it was venison, and walked away. Moments later, David and James returned, dragging the deer they had taken. David stood before his people and told them about the girl they had met, the same one traveling with the man who killed Alec. He announced that at dawn, they would hunt them down. Then the group quietly sat down and ate their meal. The next morning, Ellie was relieved to see Joel showing signs of recovery. She gave him another dose of the medicine, hoping to speed up the healing. But when she stepped outside to check the area, she spotted figures moving through the snow. David and his armed men were searching the neighborhood. Realizing they had come for revenge, Ellie raced back inside. Joel was still weak, unable to defend himself. She had to act fast, get him out or buy him time. Joel was too weak to run, and Ellie knew it. With no other choice, she handed him a knife and told him to be ready. She mounted a horse and rode out fast, drawing David and his men away from the house to buy Joel time. Her plan worked until James caught up and struck her down. Just as James raised his weapon to finish her, David stepped in. He stopped James and ordered Ellie to be taken alive. He wanted her brought back. Then, without hesitation, he ordered his men to track down Joel and kill him. As they spread out, one of the men stumbled upon Joel's hiding place. But Joel, despite his injuries, reacted quickly. He silently stabbed the man in the throat and slipped away before others could hear. Fueled by rage and determination, Joel turned the hunt around. He ambushed David's group, taking them out one by one. Those he didn't kill, he tortured, until someone finally told him what he needed. Ellie was alive and being held in a town called Silver Lake. Meanwhile, Ellie woke up locked inside a cage. David visited her, pressing her to reveal who she was. When she refused, he coldly told her Joel was dead. The news hit hard, but Ellie didn't break. As soon as he left, she searched the cage for a way out. That's when she saw them, human remains scattered on the floor. The truth hit her like a wave. David's group wasn't just a desperate community. They were cannibals. And now, she knew exactly what they planned to do with her. Shortly after, David showed up with food, but Ellie wasn't hungry. She had discovered the truth. The people in this town were eating human flesh, and David was behind it all. He tried to justify it, claiming he did what he had to do to help his starving group survive. But Ellie wasn't interested in excuses. She saw it for what it was, murder and cruelty. David admitted he had a dark side, but said he saw that same darkness in her. That's why she survived, he claimed, because she was smart, loyal, and strong. He told her they could lead together, that she could have a place by his side. He offered her a deal. Join him, and he would spare Joel. Ellie stepped forward, acting like she agreed. But it was a trick. The moment she got close, she lunged and broke David's fingers, reaching for his key. David reacted fast, slamming her into the cage door and beating her down until she let go. Meanwhile, Joel had reached Silver Lake. Inside a nearby building, he found Ellie's things and the bodies of the people David's group had butchered. Back in the cell, David called James to drag Ellie out, but she wasn't done fighting. She bit David's hand and screamed that she was infected, pointing to the bite on her arm. It was a desperate move, but it gave her one last chance to survive. At that moment, James immediately froze when Ellie claimed she was infected. He hesitated, unsure if they should really turn her into their next meal. But David wasn't convinced. If she were truly infected, she would have turned by now. As they argued, Ellie acted fast. She grabbed a butcher knife, slashed James's throat, and bolted while David fired at her. She couldn't escape. The doors were locked. So she set the building on fire, forcing David into a corner. Armed with a small knife, Ellie waited in hiding. When the moment came, she stabbed David in the stomach. He fought back, throwing her to the floor and kicking her. As he raised his weapon to kill her, Ellie reached for the nearby blade and struck him again and again until he stopped moving. Bloodied and shaking, Ellie stumbled outside where Joel found her. Without a word, he wrapped her in his arms, holding her tight as they walked away together. The story then jumped to the past. A pregnant woman named Anna was being chased by an infected. She made it to an empty farmhouse and rushed upstairs to hide. With no help in sight, Anna fought the creature alone while in labor. After killing it, she gave birth to a baby girl, Ellie. Then, to her horror, she realized she had been bitten. Desperate to save her child, Anna cut the umbilical cord immediately, hoping it would stop the infection from spreading. That night, Marlene and the Fireflies found Anna holding her newborn. Anna begged her old friend to take Ellie to Boston and find someone who could raise her. She handed Marlene a knife and asked for one last favor: stopped everything before she turned. Marlene didn't want to, but knew she had no choice. With tears streaming down her face, she handed the baby to a soldier, then did what had to be done. In the present, winter has passed, and Joel is back on his feet. But Ellie is no longer the same. Quiet and distant, she keeps something to herself. Together, they arrive in Salt Lake City, searching for the Fireflies. Inside a building, Joel senses her silence and checks on her. She brushes it off, helps him climb by lowering a ladder, then suddenly rushes ahead without explanation. Joel catches up and finds her stunned. She's discovered a giraffe calmly eating leaves behind the wall. Ellie urges Joel not to scare it. Joel, relieved to see her smile again, picks up some leaves and hands them to her. She feeds the giraffe, laughing for the first time in a long while. When it walks off, Ellie follows it to a field where a herd grazes peacefully. For a brief moment, the world feels calm. Later, as they walk through the ruins of the city, Joel opens up about his past. He tells Ellie about the emergency camp nearby, where he was once treated after the world collapsed. Ellie, in return, says she'll stay with him no matter what. He's all she has left. But peace doesn't last. Suddenly, bombs explode around them. A group ambushes them. Joel tries to protect Ellie, but the attackers take her and knock him unconscious. Shortly after, Joel wakes up inside the Firefly Hospital. Marlene is there. She assures him Ellie is safe and thanks him. Against all odds, he brought Ellie across the country alone, something she couldn't do even with a full team. Joel refuses to listen to Marlene's praise. He demands to see Ellie, but Marlene tells him it's too late. Ellie is being prepped for surgery. She explains that the cordyceps inside Ellie has grown with her since birth, producing a chemical that tricks other cordyceps into ignoring her. Their plan is to remove the cordyceps from Ellie's brain and replicate that chemical to create a cure for everyone. Joel immediately realizes what that means. The surgery will kill her. He pleads with Marlene to find another way, but she won't back down. Ellie is the only one of her kind, and they're willing to risk everything, even break the promise Marlene made to Ellie's mother. Joel tries to resist, but he's knocked to the ground by Marlene's guard.
No, you take me to her. You take me to her right now!
Before Joel is dragged out, Marlene apologizes. She gives Ellie's knife to one of her people and orders them to kill Joel if he resists again. Joel fights back. He takes out the guards escorting him, seizes a weapon, and tears through the facility. Room by room, he eliminates anyone in his way, desperate to reach Ellie before the operation begins. At one moment, he bursts into the operating room, kills the surgeon, and forces the nurses to unhook Ellie. He wraps her injured arm, lifts her into his arms, and escapes. At the parking garage, Marlene blocks his path with a gun. She begs Joel to stop. She reminds him that Ellie would do the same to save the world, that she deserves the chance to decide. But Joel has already decided. He shoots Marlene, kills her, and drives away, carrying Ellie, unconscious and unaware of what just happened. Not long after, Ellie wakes up in a moving car with Joel behind the wheel. He tells her Firefly only ran tests and found nothing. According to him, she wasn't the only immune one. There were others, but none led to a cure, so they gave up. He says raiders attacked the hospital, killing the Fireflies. He tells her Marlene didn't make it. When Ellie asks for more, Joel avoids the answers and says they're going home. Days later, they reach Wyoming and continue on foot toward Tommy's community. As they walk, Joel opens up about Sarah. He says Sarah would have liked Ellie, calling her smart and funny. Ellie then shares something heavy. She killed her best friend Riley after Riley turned into one of the infected. She still carries that guilt, along with the pain of losing Tess and Sam. At that moment, Joel stops her. He tells her none of it was her fault. He urges her to find something new to hold on to, something worth living for. Before they reach the end of the path, Ellie turns to Joel and asks him to swear that everything he told her about the Fireflies is true. Without hesitation, Joel looks her in the eyes and lies. He swears it's all true. Ellie stares at him for a long moment, then says, okay. And just like that, they keep walking forward, together. And with that, the story comes to an end. So, the moral of the story is, if someone offers you pancakes during a global fungal outbreak, maybe just say no. Your immune system and the world might depend on it.